Welcome back, ghouls and germs. No, ghouls and ghosts, ladies and germs.
Hey, you had a great streak going.
Episode 86 of the Change My Mind podcast, part of the hashtag Dorkshare Gooniverse, along with Geeks Worldwide Radio and Midnight.fm. We are a People's Podcast, home of the People's Elbow, and, well, formerly known as the prettiest podcast in the hashtag Dorkshare Gooniverse. And this week's episode is brought to you not by Toy Vault, but by Universal Technical Institute. Do you have the spirit of UTI inside of you? Get it out by signing up today at www.uti.edu. That's www.uti.edu. And be sure to type in promo code STREAM, that's STREAM, for a $100 rebate on your first online class. UTI, unclog future exhaust pipes today. I am Wesley Sykes, and through the other side of the ether is the Bigfoot to my Sasquatch, Mr. Nick Fryer. Nick, what is up?
If that promo code actually works, let us know.
What do you mean? Of course it works.
Right.
You haven't tried it out yet? Nick's got something caught up in the throat.
Sorry.
You got some almonds caught up in the throat?
I'm good. I'm good now. But I also wanted to note something that's been bothering me since last week was, I think it was last episode of PCP, they talked about how they are now the most controversial podcast of the hashtag Dorkshare Gooniverse. And
September 15th gave them a huge boost, in their defense. That was some great promotion that they did there.
Yeah, it did, but I got to say that's a direct reflection on us because we've gotten soft because we've had the biggest fight I think still to date. Not the most ridiculous take, although actually some would say I had the most ridiculous take in the hashtag Dorkshare Gooniverse. But either way,
do.
Okay, fine, whatever. But anyways, just saying we might need to get back into. I know it's October, but we may need to get back to fighting again.
Sure, we got to make some headlines. We're getting too fat, sitting up on our ivory towers, looking down on PCP, and they caught up on us.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
I hear you.
All right, good.
Nick, how much money would it take for you to cut off your pinky on your dominant hand?
Well, everybody's got a price, Wes. So anybody who out there says that they wouldn't do it for anything is
now you're a former pitcher,
but I don't do it anymore. I just need to.
You couldn't have like a Dennis Quaid, the rookie type of comeback story.
Correct. Yeah, it would be very difficult because my changeup was my best pitch by the end of it, and my pinky was very important and all that.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I think if you give me, I don't know, $500K, I'd do it.
$500K?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can do a lot with that.
Tax-free?
It has to be tax-free, yeah.
Would your first move to be get a prosthetic pinky?
Oh, if that is an actual thing, like you can get like one that like the out of the 3D printers and it actually kind of works a little bit, then I would have to up it.
Geez, man, I think you can figure that out. Money talks.
Yeah, that's true, but I don't want to waste too much money on it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just your pinky. I mean, what it only does so much. It's not we're losing our thumb or our index finger.
Yeah, but you would look kind of weird.
I know somebody who lost their pinky, and trust me, you would never know with their hand.
Now, it wouldn't be like at the middle digit, like it would be gone.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I know somebody. I know somebody who lost I think it was the majority of their pinky, and then it was like a construction accident type thing, and then they just cleaned it off, and it was gone. So he has no pinky, and I would never know if I wasn't told. You just like now because I know, I feel when I shake his hand, it's a little bit lighter.
Yeah,
or I did. He's no longer with us, sadly.
Oh, geez, that's tough.
Unrelated to the pinky incident.
And the pinky. Yeah, I was going to say, the thing festered. The wound festered. He never cleaned it out.
What about you?
I shouldn't speak ill of the dead. I apologize.
No, it's fine.
But for that, yes, I'm pretty cheap. We do write for a living. I use the keyboard and stuff, so it'd be tough to reach those Qs and ones on the keyboard there. Hit the tab button, that sort of thing. So that would be kind of tough, but I'm pretty cheap. Give me $25K.
That's it?
Yeah, because I'm not doing anything other than typing. I feel like I could adjust to that.
Wow.
You know anybody?
That's it? I'm
Times are tough, man.
I'm sure the Dork Universe could pull together some money just to do that, just to see it happen.
Hey, you're on furloughed friends. I'm surprised your price is so high.
Yeah, okay. Dude, I still like my pinky. I still want to use it, but $500K, you can do a lot with that. If you're smart.
Yeah, I know, but it's like you got to find someone who would also pay that too. It's like I feel like I could find a lot more potential suitors to fulfill that request.
Yeah, which is kind of also the scary part of it. I mean, I wouldn't want to have the experience of having my finger cut off. Probably wouldn't be fun either.
Yeah, you enough booze and you forget it.
I don't know if I ever have gotten to that point, and maybe you have, and who knows? I don't know.
Well, maybe I'm willing to. Maybe that's what I'm saying.
Have you lost any pinkies before, or toes before, I should say?
No, I have both my toes and both my pinkies at the moment.
Yeah, I meant to say pinky toes is what I was going to say.
Pinky ring blang going on right there. All
right, yes, good for you. Yes, you see, you got a wedding ring. Congratulations.
Oh, that's true too. I was a little bit of it's an Irish clattering. It's a traditional Irish wedding band there. So anyway, this week we'll be discussing real, allegedly paranormal stories with paranormal expert and our former resident guy in the chair, Tim Weisberg.
Mm-hmm. Very excited for this.
Very fun stuff ahead here. We'll each have 3 stories. We'll dissect it. We'll put it on a scale of 1 to 10, the believability factor. And we'll put on some sleuth caps too, because at the end of the day, that's who we are.
Exactly.
Just a couple of internet sleuths.
And we have hashtag dorks talking about movies, and I think everybody else is doing scary movies. We're talking about real
shit, because we're big J journalists. We're digging for the truth. We want the real. We want the realness. That real.
Yes. So everybody knows that we are. Wes doesn't like scary movies. So we're not part of all of this. I don't know how I got snuffed out of it. I said I'd help with all of it, but you know what? We're going to up the ante and we're going to just talk about real ghost stories.
Yeah, my favorite scary movie is probably Scary Movie 2. Scary Movie 2. It's a good one there. Whether you qualify, it's got some scary elements. But anyway, what have we got in trending now? What's trending at the Murray?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the news about Jamie Foxx that came out late last week. He's set to return as Electro for the MCU's 3rd Spider-Man movie. How do you feel about this?
Okay, so on the surface, in a vacuum, right? Not great, right? Jamie Foxx, not a great villain. Electro, not a great villain. Amazing Spider-Man 2, not a great movie, right? Very forgettable. In a vacuum, don't like this. But what this means is it opens up a multiverse, which is a lot of people have already alluded to. A la Doctor Strange 2, maybe Ant-Man 3. So a lot of opportunities to tie it in there. And instead of having to go 10, 12, movies to build up this villain roster and these new characters, this is essentially a cheat to be able to bring in past characters who were great to create the Sinister Six, for example. So maybe Electro has a smaller part in this, but maybe that puts Alfred Molina's Dr. Octopus on the table to come back in the Sinister Six there, because there's also been rumors about Tom Holland teaming up with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire for some sort of live action Spider-Verse, right? That's kind of what everyone's hinting towards. But I think this is a great way to bring back characters from other properties as kind of a cheat, if you will, to circumvent the amount of time that it would actually take to build up these universes in the MCU world. I love the X-Men too. I think you could also see them start pulling certain characters they like from there and maybe have a different reiteration of them.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's definitely the biggest thing that comes out of it. I just don't get why it has to be Electro of all the characters.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. And then what does this mean? That also probably means that you can bring in Tom Hardy and his Venom.
Right.
So that's a whole other thing in all this. That's just one I wouldn't think of initially. Not as big of a deal.
And wasn't there something in the Morbius trailer, which is another Sony product that was supposed to be in that Venom verse, that showed Michael Keaton's Vulture in the prison with him? Like, I thought there was some sort of teaser there. I don't know if that was like a fan thing, but I could have sworn I came across that before. So it seemed like they were already trying to connect those worlds, and even if it was like loose.
If you guys like all this multiverse chaos and everything, multiverse madness, actually go back and listen to episode 84, right?
83 or 84?
83 or 84, yes. And by the way, I know on News Dump, Mac and Goose said we were talking Komodo dragons last week. I don't know what Mac's talking about. That's for episode 87, and thanks for spoiling that for everybody. We're going to save that.
We're a spoiler podcast, though, so it's cool. I'm cool with it.
That's a fair point, I guess. All right, so episode 87, everybody knows now we're talking Komodo dragons. Anyways,
it's really spitting in my face because I expressed my displeasure with them not knowing the title of a certain episode one week, and they have since just slowly unraveled and getting more and more further away from our topic titles every week. So I blame myself for that.
That's okay. I mean, Billy D, every time he says they're talking about, aliens every week?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
so there you go. Anyways, I'm in the grand scheme of things, yes, it's awesome that we're going to see all this stuff brought in, all the different characters from different universes. We could see some of them come in. I just don't like that it's Electro. Like, he's not. Jimmy Fox didn't do a great job with it. I don't have any reason to believe that he's going to do a great job with this one. And also, they haven't confirmed that this means multiverse stuff. Obviously, it should. If it's not, then there's no reason for this. I don't understand it whatsoever. Like the J.K. Simmons, staying involved in all this as J. Jonah Jameson is totally different than Electro. Totally different ballgame.
It's on a much smaller scale, right? It doesn't have as much implication, but I think it's still very same. It's just again a bigger scale of it. But I think it all but confirms the multiverse.
It should
to me, and especially the idea of the Sinister Six. So I'm very excited for MCU Spider-Man 3 whenever that comes out. But what did just come out, Nicholas? Not just my good segue skills, but Forbes releasing their 2020 highest paid actress list.
Oh, do tell.
You want to hear the top 5? Do you have any guesses? I mean, you saw the notes, so you probably know
I would say Pamela Anderson.
Okay.
All right, this is just Electra.
No, you're just
Who's the girl from Fast Times at Ridgemont High? What's her name? I can't remember. All right, go ahead.
Nick, sometimes if we weren't through this ether right now, knuckle sandwich.
Go for it.
No, I would not do that. I've seen you without your shirt off. Top 5, Sofia Vergara, $43 million. Very, very surprising there because I'm not sure what she's putting out. She's number 1. It has to be residuals from Modern Family. I feel like that's like on ABC, TNT, TBS. Like it's like syndication on a couple different shows.
She's got to have a commercial deal going on right now.
I think she does. I think her and her boy toy, right? Joe Magnavello.
No, she's not with him anymore. I don't believe. I thought she did something with her son, and I thought that was on. I thought it was Dove. I could be wrong.
Commercials don't pay that much, though. That's
well.
Crazy.
I mean, it's probably. I mean, if it's a year-long thing or whatever, it's probably paying decent money, especially when you're Sofia Vergara.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Number 2 is Angelina Jolie at $35.5 million. Number 3 is Gal Gadot at $31.5 million. Melissa McCarthy coming in at a robust $25 million, and Meryl Streep rounding out the top 5 with Streeping It Real, $24 million.
I wouldn't have Gal Gadot doesn't shock me that much, I guess.
Because Wonder Woman was supposed to come out this year, so she was probably paid accordingly for that. Right. And I'm sure her salary wasn't tied to like box office. I'm not, I doubt she had points or anything like that.
Where did everybody else come from?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Melissa McCarthy has come out with some stuff recently, but Meryl Streep, all-time actress, but with 2020, nothing really came out this year, so that's why I'm just kind of puzzled with all this money came from. 6 through 10, Emily Blunt, Nicole Kidman, Ellen Pompeo, Elizabeth Moss, Viola Davis. I'm just very surprised. This seems like a lot of actresses who haven't really done it, like Ellen Pompeo, right? Unless that's residuals again from Grey's Anatomy. But Nicole Kidman, I haven't seen do anything. I feel like Emily Blunt's probably done something.
Wasn't that Kidman in an Old Guard? You can't even remember that movie. Jesus.
Old Guard is no. That's Charlize Theron.
That's right. It is Charlize Theron. Dummy. I'm the idiot. That's what I get.
Blonde. I think she's a tall South African blonde, though. I think Nicole Kidman may be Australian, but it's close enough. It's foreign.
Yeah, exactly. Emily Blunt doesn't entirely surprise me, I guess, in all this because we've seen her around, but still, I don't. Like you said, I don't know where this money's coming from this year. It's got to be residuals.
Well, Viola Davis, right? She's in a bunch of stuff, and she was also in the Suicide Squad. Maybe she got a payday on that too, right? Wasn't she reprising a role?
Maybe that's where it came from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I got there.
Speaking of Viola Davis and Suicide Squad, there was I think it was one of the Joker's producers, or maybe the top producer, Michael E. Uslan. Mm-hmm. I don't know. He was looking at he in some interview. He talked about if DC was to do another Joker type movie, they could do it with Mr. Freeze, which. I mean, our guy Casey Walsh from Geeks Worldwide said it. Everybody who's watched Batman the Animated Series has thought this. Anybody who's read the comics for the most part has thought this. You just go and do it with the Heart of Ice. I mean, but my question to you, Wes, is would you want to see this?
Oh yeah. I mean, maybe not in the light of Joker, not like that type of vein, but something along the lines of the Batman, like that type of gritty, but there's still action involved. Like the Joker was just really like a mental thriller. It's like a mental drain, I think, more than anything.
Yeah.
But something along the lines of like the Dark Knight series with the Nolan films, or something like, you know, the Batman with Matt Reeves. Like in that vein, I could be into it because the story is very interesting. You know, it's not the Arnold Schwarzenegger. It touches on it a little bit there, but you know, it's not going to be as corny and as jokey and hokey as you know, Schumacher's version of you know, Mr. Freeze was. But you know, I think it's very, very interesting making him a sympathetic character and kind of exploring those ideas. I think, you know, those are the type of villains that people and fans tend to respond to, especially in the movies these days.
Yeah, I think he could absolutely do it with this. Obviously, I never was huge on Victor Freeze, excuse me. Like, I just never understood Mr. Freeze's appeal. I get this whole storyline in what you just said, but even then, like, I loved Joker. You know, I liked that movie more than you did, and I didn't want that movie. I thought with Joker, why are we doing this? So maybe if they do this with Mr. Freeze, I'll like it. I know that Sean Murphy did a one-off with his whole, what is it called? The White Knight universe. He did a one-off comic there as well, where I think Victor Freeze was like a Nazi or something like that, and it was like a flashback or whatever. It was, and people really like that too. People, like Batman fans really like Mr. Freeze, so maybe think about doing it. I guess why not? I mean, but I think you could still just introduce him in this new Batman universe type thing that you're going to have going too.
Yeah. I wouldn't want a villain-led, you know, Joker or Mr. Freeze origin movie. I would want him to be the lead villain.
Right. I'm surprised. Like when I think about it, though, Mr. Freeze is one of the first villains I think of when I think of Batman. And the fact that I mean, I guess it's because of Arnold, right? We haven't seen him since then. That's probably why. Yeah, because that's why they had him so early, and then they screwed that one up.
Well, he did such a good job. You know, it's such a tough performance to follow up.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of in the course of all this. Okay, so the other thing too that popped up, Wes, before our episode was apparently the people who made Castlevania have a new show coming to Netflix October 27th called Blood of Zeus. And I guess they ordered I was trying to research it to get the synopsis and everything, and I guess they ordered this show or whatever back in March. So this has been in the works for a while. And just a synopsis for everybody. The series tells the story of a young man who, cast aside by his people, learns that he is the illegitimate son of Zeus. He alone can save both heaven and earth, but to do so, he must survive the vengeful wrath of a goddess who wants him dead, and the monstrous forces of evil she aligns against him. And I think this is 8 episodes from what I've seen, and they're looking into this. Now, you don't watch Castlevania. You're never going to watch Castlevania.
Nope.
But
this is purely for you. I hope you had a few moments of private time. I know your brother's visiting you, but I hope you got some moments to yourself to fully enjoy this news.
I am very excited about it. I think that, look, it's if you've watched some of the animation stuff that I give you, you know that I have I kind of am pretty good with this stuff, right? Like you liked the Justice League Dark, I love
the DC animated movies.
You love
DC
Mortal
does
Kombat,
a great job,
right?
Yeah, but Mortal Kombat was okay.
Yeah,
it was pretty bad.
For those who are interested, we did reviews on that, and Wes loved one of those and absolutely despised the other. But trust me when I say this: when it comes to the animation, okay, let me ask you this, Wes. On a scale of 1 to 10, since we're doing that this episode, not a normal 1 to 100 or 0 to 100, excuse me, with the violence when it came to Mortal Kombat, 1 being not so violent, 10 being extremely violent, how would you rate Mortal Kombat?
It was violent. But I didn't have it. That wasn't my issue.
1 to 10.
Oh, you're gonna hold me to it. It was an 8.5.
I would say this is probably. I'd probably go with a 9 on this.
You've already watched it?
No, their Castlevania stuff, and I did see the trailer for this, and it's already pretty violent there. Castlevania was there's some weird stuff in both of them, but I think I give the edge to Castlevania. So I would expect this is going to be more violent. It's the same animators and everything. It seems like so. But I think for like an adult animated show and action and dealing with mythology and stuff, I would say this is worth giving a peek.
I'm a fan of mythology. I enjoy a good Zeus story, a good Greek god story as much as the next guy. I probably won't watch this.
You won't watch it.
But we'll probably have to do a full-on episode on this, a full review. I think we should probably adopt, an idea from Mac and Goo here on each other's birthdays. We each do forced to do a topic of each other's choosing.
Ooh!
And I say this having just passed a birthday, so this is truly friendship at its finest.
Well, I mean, we could always just retcon it, kind of, or whatever, and just.
No, we got to play by the rules here. We need rules. We need structure because otherwise we're all just willy-nilly in the wind.
So then next week I am picking the episode, 1,000%. Just me.
Is it your birthday?
Yeah.
Your birthday's next week?
You didn't know that?
No.
No, okay. I didn't expect you to know that originally, but you offered. Okay. So you offering that up? I was like, what the hell? Okay. Yes.
Wow, that was good timing then, because I did not know that. I don't know if you could tell, but I was lying.
It seemed like you were telling the truth for a second there at the end. No, I didn't expect you to know that, but then you coming up with this the week before, it just made me think that you knew. Wow.
Well, it looks like I have the old foot and mouth syndrome here going on. Good job, Wes.
Okay. Well, that just means that I will have to decide earlier than we normally do, so that way you can catch up on something or whatever. God. Well, I'll promise you this. It's not going to be a comic book because Doc and I do that, so I'm not going to put you through that. But it'll definitely be. We'll definitely do a show or a movie. I don't think we'll do an argument. Maybe there'll probably be an argument with me.
Don't make me watch According to Jim, please.
That would be. If I only knew where to watch that, I don't want to put the research. I don't like it as much as everybody thinks. By the way, spoiler for all our listeners. Sorry, I don't love it as much as everybody thinks.
You liking According to Jim and Castlevania is to how you tell people I don't live on the Cape. That's like the same type of thing. I just continue to push it, and you continue to push it.
Yes. Oh,
eventually, like if the narrative doesn't change, like they'll just like two other people who I don't even know will be having a conversation, and they'll be like, "You know that West guy? He doesn't live on the Cape." Oh yeah, I know the one. And it's
turned into that.
That's how it starts.
It really is. And for those who have no idea what Wes is alluding to, in the Dork Shared Universe chat, I started to think that Wes doesn't actually live on the Cape because I know it pisses him off, and it's taken on a life of its own to the point where I don't even say it anymore because I just feel bad.
Yeah, so, you shouldn't feel bad because, like I said in the group chat, you fight for the things that you believe in, Nick. So I'm more than happy to take on armies of people. Insert the Jon Snow gif, pulling out the sword in front of the cavalry. That's me right now. And I'm happy to do it. It's a cross I bear.
Yeah, well, I'm proud of you. I feel bad sometimes. Like, again, I'm the one that brought this on you. So I have no way to transition into this. I want to get to the comic book minute because I have a little surprise for you with a weird story. Maybe we'll review it.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, before we get rolling, though, I do want to mention TeePublic. We have Change My Mind merch over there. We have.
And we're going to have some new merch. Some new merch coming very soon, actually.
Yes, we're working on that, and we're always letting you guys know when the discounts come out on the hashtag Dork Shared Universe Facebook page, and we're always the one that makes sure we tweet out. Not Dork, not Mac and Goo. We're the ones that are taking care of you guys. I grilled PCP, both Billy D and Rossi, about not having any merch, so hopefully they can get on that because Billy D does a lot of good stuff, and they have – they could do like probably 15 different things off of Rossi's bullshit takes. So, right there alone, Rossi's terrible takes. Make a shirt out of that. What are you waiting for, guys?
I like it.
So, anyways, make sure you guys check that out. But it brings us to the comic book minute. So, Wes, I will be talking about more stuff on TLDR with Doc. I have a DC book planned this week. I will let you know that now. Doc has a scary book. We have a interview that Doc and I already did that will be coming out on Wednesday, which I want to make sure you're okay with this nickname that he has for it. I don't know if you listen to TLDR 9 yet, but he wants to call them Friarside Chats instead of bonus episodes.
I like that.
You like that? Okay, so going forward, Friarside Chats. I'm working on setting up more, but we have one that's coming out with a guest we've talked to before, who's an indie comics writer, does it all himself. So keep your peepers popped for that on Wednesday. But this week, DC has DC's Dead Planet 4 coming out. I already wrote the review for that, so you can look for that on Geeks Worldwide. Probably by the time you guys listen to that, if the latest on Wednesday, American Vampire 1976 issue 1 is coming out. Now, this is a huge one because this was Scott Snyder's first real big story, American Vampire. Obviously, we had him on the show a little while back.
The first Fireside Chat.
Yes, the first true Fireside Chat. Yeah, well, yes. And then we had, Keith loves him. Keith loves that book. Davey loves that one. I think Doc's read it and Shime. So everybody, it's very much worth your time. Mm-hmm. I haven't read the first issue of 1967 yet, but I will definitely be reading this whole series. I think it's 6 issues. Batman 100. I skimmed through this because this is the end of the Joker War. Not related to the 3 Jokers thing. Okay. It looks friggin' nuts. You got the whole Bat family in there, Punchlines in there, Harley Quinn's in there. It looks bananas. So I'm gonna go back through that and really read it, even though I'm not reading Batman, just because it looks awesome. Deadpool 7 comes out, which is, for me, I don't read a lot of Marvel. This may be the only thing that I'm reading with any level of consistency. So Deadpool 7, very happy that's out. I saw this when we talked about Cyclops and his Marvel Snapshot. Spider-Man has a Marvel Snapshot coming out this week. And I figured this might interest you, at least just in terms of, I don't know, I feel like it's a story that would interest you. I know you're never going to read it, but
I'm a big Spider-Man guy, though, so maybe we roll the dice.
This is true. Let's say you're a low-life criminal in Manhattan, just trying to get by in a world that's recently gotten full of Spider-Men, Daredevils, Power Men, and more, and you just want to make a decent illegal living.
Sure.
Plenty of henchman work available if you don't mind ending up in traction.
Okay.
And there's a brewing supervillain gang war building. What do? Keep your head low or go for the big win? That's the synopsis. So
is this from the perspective of a low-life criminal in Manhattan?
That's what Sure as Hell sounds like.
I like this. I'm a fan of this. I always thought a funny comedy series would be like a sitcom living in the world of the MCU and just dealing with destruction from the Hulk or whatever else is going on.
I think there's a show for that, out there, for people who have an appetite for that. So maybe maybe we can talk about that a little bit more later on. But before we bring Tim on, one other thing I did want to mention: IDW has Sonic the Hedgehog: The Bad Guys issue 1 coming out this week. Looks kind of cool. And then the crossover we've all been waiting for, Wes. Transformers / Back to the Future issue 1.
I love it.
It's out this week from IDW.
This week.
Yes. Who would have thought? I'm sure that Tim would love to read Transformers Back to the Future, right, Tim? That's a crossover you've been waiting for forever.
Oh, absolutely. Anything Back to the Future, I'm all about.
How you been, brother?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm doing great as well. Tim, thanks so much. How are you? As a former resident guy in the chair, are you currently in a chair right now? Can you confirm?
Always in a chair.
Good. That's good to know.
I used to always broadcast standing up, but now I can't do that anymore. Now I have to sit down. I guess I'm just old and lazy now.
It works. You're going to want to sit down because we have a bunch of scary stories lined up. So you want to make sure that your bladders are cleared, that your shutters are drawn, your lights are turned on, and you're safely, comfortably seated because we have some real paranormal activities to discuss here. Spooky coincidence or sinister interventions, campfire folklore, or stranger than fiction. We will attempt to decipher exactly that with paranormal expert, top dog over at Midnight FM, and our former resident guy in the chair, Tim Weisberg. Tim, I know we already said how are you, but how are you?
Well, I mean, we're in Paranormal Christmas now, so I am all a titter.
All a titter. Oh, I like that. Okay, so I am just reading from the script here because that's all I can do. So I apologize for that. Asking how are you? But you got to have a busy lineup schedule. So just do
the libraries
in maybe who have forgotten or these new listeners that we may have picked up from the hashtag Dorkshire Gooniverse. Tim, what is your background? What is your experience with paranormal activities, and why are you the perfect person to have on for this episode?
Well, I had paranormal experiences my whole life, but that led to me starting the Spooky South Coast radio show just about 15 years ago. And that's led to a variety of other opportunities. I've written a couple of books on the paranormal. I've been on some of the paranormal television shows. And also recently we launched our own kind of mostly paranormal radio network called Midnight FM, where I do a weeknight show now. So, and then, just this past week, we launched a brand new national website through my day job, Town Square Media, called Ultimate Unexplained. So I'm now the paranormal editor for a website that will cover both national and international paranormal, true crime, legends, paranormal pop culture, all that kind of stuff.
Damn, that's awesome. I did see that about the website. Damn, that's awesome, Tim. I'm so happy for you. How's the Midnight.fm stuff going?
No, it's going good. It's going good. We are up to, I think, just about 20 programs now that are on the air with us each week, including Change My Mind. So very, very, very popular with our listeners. I love the fact that, I can see all the numbers, and I notice that as my program is wrapping up on Monday nights, people are sticking around to watch Change My Mind. So,
do tell. We haven't talked to you about numbers in a while. We'll have to continue the text thread with that a little bit later on, because I'm very curious to hear how that's all going. But, we were talking before about how, hashtag dork, they're talking about, scary movies. I think they did, what was it, what was the episode that they have this week, Wes? The Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, right?
Yeah, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which I believe are books.
Yes.
Tim should be familiar with that. They're of an older age group, right?
Yeah, and they were pretty popular when I was a kid, and really one of the first exposures I probably had to ghost stories.
Okay, and then everybody else is doing scary movies, and we, Tim, we've never really done horror stuff. Wes doesn't like doing scary stuff. I tried to talk him into some. Oh, come on, Wes. Am I wrong? You don't like scary stuff?
No. I'm wincing at the idea of doing scary stuff.
Okay.
Wincing in agreement.
Yes. So, but we were like, we'll have Tim on to tell scary stories. And the first time, I don't know, Wes, you probably know the story. The first, Tim and I used to ride up to Patriots games together. We were both covering them for the Standard Times. And Tim, would tell me stories about all his, about his paranormal investigation and a bunch of different stuff. And there were, because we'd come back and it'd be nighttime. And look, don't get me wrong, I like scary movies, but I get scared very easily. And there was one story that's always stuck with me about the redheaded hitchhiker that Tim told me.
Not the Bermuda Triangle, the Bridgewater Triangle.
But this one's over in Seekonk in Dighton, Rehoboth. And I used to have to drive kind of by there for TV stuff at WPRI, so it always used to scare the piss out of me. So thanks for that one, Tim. I'll always appreciate that.
Just doing my part to keep you alert while you're driving down the road late at night. That's all.
Route 44?
Exactly.
Right? Route 44.
Yeah, Route 44. That's why a lot of these, these legends might exist, because they serve a purpose. So in addition to just being a good, scary story, there's kind of a moral to it. And the redheaded hitchhiker's moral is, pay attention when you're driving down the road late at night.
And don't pick up hitchhikers.
Right. Yeah, definitely don't do that. It was a little bit different in the 70s when the story started, because the redheaded hitchhiker might have had some good weed on him. But, nowadays you can get that anywhere, so you don't need to go picking up hitchhikers for it.
Ass, gas, or cash, right? Isn't that the old saying there?
That was the bumper sticker on my uncle's van. Yep.
Absolutely. He knows. On the VW bus, maybe? Who knows? Who knows there? But okay, so we each have one paranormal story that we brought to the table here, all on a different topic, I believe. And like I said, we'll dissect it, discuss, rate on a scale of 1 to 10 the believability factor of each story, 10 being pure fact, 1 being full of shit, essentially here. So what we're going to do is I'll lead off here, if you don't mind. And I'm going to read through some things, give you a little bit of background information. Feel free to stop me at any point that you have any questions. Try to be fairly brief, but this is a pretty interesting story here, and we'll just go right through it. So this case is called the strange case of the human Bigfoot War of 1855.
Okay.
Do I have your attention? Okay.
I would say so.
So this takes place, again, in 1855 in America, in the McCurtain County wilderness area of present-day Oklahoma, around the area of Arkansas. And there were these group of Choctaw Native Americans, and they were dominant over this land here, but they were realizing that there was these trespassers who were coming in on their land, stealing all their cattle, and eventually some of their children, and kind of just running amok in their neighborhood. So the Choctaws put together a search party that was essentially called the Light Horsemen. And the largest of the group was a towering Native American by the name of Hamis Tubby and his 6 sons, who were widely reported as standing around 7 feet or more in height. Real life giants.
Time out. Hold. These are the people that are on the 7-footers are all on the human side, or they're on the...
Yes, they're Choctaw Native Americans. So this is a Native American story. They're all, and just imagine 8 Shaquille O'Neals, in a group.
Where have we seen any? Or are there any Native American basketball players that I don't know about ever? Tim?
There was. I thought there was one a few years ago. I can't think of his name.
Tim covered the Celtics, long before I did, so he would know that kind of stuff. That's just bizarre. So one guy. Okay. Anyways, continue. I'm already discrediting the story.
So yeah, and the group was led up by a half French, half Choctaw general by the name of Joshua Lafleur, and their mission was to find these culprits. So they're riding out almost like 2 days on end, until they eventually Lafleur comes across something using his telescope, and he thinks he finds these culprits. And they're all getting ready, and this huge group of 7-foot Choctaw Indians are, getting ready with their guns and their muskets and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden they hear this, they run into this wall of putrid stench. And then the horses start bucking. They won't fight through it. The smell is so bad. But a few of them, mostly some of the Tubbies and Lafleur herself, were able to control their animals enough to advance past this wall of smell that smelled like rotting decay, like rotting flesh, if you will.
Rotting flesh. Okay, yeah, sure. That sounds totally.
So they get to where this source of the smell is coming from, and they find at the center of this clearing what was described as some of earthen mound that had embedded within it and strewn about it numerous corpses in various levels of decomposition, drawing a fog of flies that droned all about the startled warriors.
Okay.
So huge mound of dead bodies that are just decomposing with grass and everything around it.
With grass growing around them. Okay, got it.
So of the human bandits, there was no sign. So they didn't see any of these human bandits that they were looking for. But looming nearby were 3 enormous ape-like creatures covered in hair, so tall as to dwarf even the most statuesque of the Tubbies themselves. Again, 7-footers, taller than them. So these beast men purportedly stood there glaring in their direction, completely unafraid of these tribal warriors. What purportedly followed next is just as dramatic as any over-the-top action movie. Lafleur is said to have charged the strange beast without hesitation, pistol and saber in one hand, and howling the whole time.
Oh, really?
This is, Lafleur, French,
Yeah, bro, Joshua Lafleur, who could forget? Very brave man. All right, got it.
Putting down the notion that all French people retreat, right? This guy's running right into the action. One of the creatures stepped forward and lashed out his massive hand to swat the general's horse to the side of its head, and a thunderous blow that sent it sprawling to the ground dead. Lafleur was ejected to the ground, but was soon to his feet, pistol blazing, managing to hit the wild man 7 times, pew, 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 but barely slowing it down at all. Even after sustaining several gunshot wounds, it barely bled.
Oh, really?
It seemed to not have even felt it, and lunged forward to grab the man by the head, and he ripped it clean off.
See, I have a tough time with Sasquatch stories. Go ahead.
All of this happened before the others even had any time to react, nor indeed even process the situation at all. How could they? And they had just witnessed it in a wide-eyed stupor. Upon seeing the general slump to the ground with his head, without a head, as this vicious ape creature loomed over this carcass, they produced their rifles and launched a withering volley of bullets at these monsters, which managed to drop all of them but one. The grievously injured creature purportedly limped off in a bid to escape, but was set upon by one of the Tubby brothers, who pounced and apparently cut its head off with his hunting knife. In the aftermath, it was just a few scattered native warriors poised and ready for the next attack that would never come. The smell of gun smoke and that fetid stench of dead bodies, feces, and urine lingering all around them. In the background, the Tubby bothered crouched over the hulking beast with blood on his knife and hands. The natives then went about the grim work of burying the dead, finding the bodies of at least 19 children among them, and the bodies of the hulking beast were burned on a bonfire.
I have a tough time with Sasquatch stories as it is. I'm not saying he's not real, but this is too... What's the site you got this from again, Wes?
So this is from mysteriousuniverse.org. And the next paragraph is, this is this seems too good to be true. It might be, but the tale does indeed incorporate various historical facts, as Lafleur seemed to have indeed been a real person who did die in 1855, and the Tubbies are apparently real as well. But if you think of it like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, it could be along those same lines. Real person, fake scenarios there.
Yeah, it's too much detail in this for something that happened in 1855, because I know with my story there's a lot of wiggle room, like all these specific details that are getting brought up and all this. That's why I'm not buying this. I'm like legitimately
the Revolutionary War.
Well, go ahead, Tim.
So to be fair, Mysterious Universe tends to overwrite a lot of their stories. That's why people should get all their stories from ultimate.explain.com. But the thing is it sounds like whoever wrote this, no matter what, they took a lot of creative license with the actual facts. So the way the story's written doesn't necessarily mean that the story itself isn't true. It just means that the person who wrote it up tried to make it into a much better yarn than the details would have suggested.
It's fantastically written. I was compelled. I remember the first time I read this. I actually think I sent this to Keith after the Dork podcast did their cryptids episode. This is maybe 3 months back or so. But the last paragraph of this story does mention a source, the best source that he could find on the internet. And it has this really long title of a book. It's called True Bigfoot Horror, The Apex Predator, Monster in the Woods, Cryptozoology, Terrifying, Violent, and True Encounters of Sasquatch Hunting People. Parentheses, Cryptozoology, Sasquatch Paranormal, close parentheses, Volume 1.
That is the worst book title of all time. Who's the author of that? Does it say?
Jeremy Kelly.
That is 100% self-published, because no publisher would approve that much punctuation in one title.
That's brutal.
Do we think this is believable? A Bigfoot human war in 1855.
I was in on it right until the
Industrial Revolution era.
What were you saying, Tim?
I said I was in on it right until the title. You had me until the title of that book. But so you're saying 1855. This is at a time when a story like this would have been, big news, and it would have made newspapers. It would have been told, and certainly who captures a Bigfoot creature or kills a Bigfoot creature and then burns the body? You bring it back to show off. You know how much that hide would have been worth?
How long has a Bigfoot Sasquatch been a thing, like a ghost story thing?
Well, the legends of the Sasquatch creature go back to Native American times. So well before the English settlers were here, the term Bigfoot itself is only since the 1960s when the Patterson-Gimlin film came out. But other than that, it's always been, the Sasquatch creature, the Yeti. They all have these Native American or, indigenous people's names attached to them.
Okay. So, all right. So it's been around for a long time. Fine. I'm not saying there couldn't be a Sasquatch, Bigfoot, or whatever, but I don't buy this story. I'm probably going to give it on that scale we're doing, 1 to 10, 10 being pure fact. I'm probably going to give it a 2. Really, Wesley.
2. Oh, that's so disrespectful. Okay, before I give my answer, Tim, so this location was the Oklahoma-Arkansas area. Is that an area that's been known to have Bigfoot sightings? I know the Pacific Northwest and Canada are usually hotbeds, quote unquote. But is Oklahoma, Arkansas, anything that pops up there off memory from you?
I mean, pretty much every area that has woodlands has reported seeing these kind of creatures. They might not be as prominent in some place like that, and they might not all be the same. I mean, Florida has the skunk ape. There's different versions of kind of different species almost of the Sasquatch that are seen in different places. So it's entirely possible that they had them there. I don't know if they'd be as prominent because I don't know how thick the forestry would be in those states. Those are more plain states, I would think.
Okay. Yeah, that was my thinking. They're very flat. Like, where would they go and hide? That would be, unless they're going underground, then that's we're talking about mole men at that point.
That's a totally different,
guys.
Horse of a different color we're talking there. All right, Tim, what do you got? Scale of 1 to 10 here.
I would give it a 3.
Thank you.
That's I only rated a little bit higher than Nick does because I do believe there's a possibility that there could have been a human Bigfoot skirmish encounter, but this just seems too unbelievable based on the circumstances.
Let me ask, do you believe in Bigfoot?
I do. I don't necessarily believe that it's a flesh and blood creature.
Oh.
I believe that it might be some sort of trans-dimensional being that's appearing to us in that form because people believe in the idea of a Bigfoot in the woods.
Oh, so that's some next level stuff. So we're talking about like a shapeshifter at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I subscribe to a lot of the John Keel method of paranormal occurring. Is that it's all this kind of stuff that exists within our own world and our own minds, really, that is just kind of coming into being in a way that we can digest it.
Huh.
I like a lot of projection.
So then the Native Americans are the ones that came up with it. So if they or saw it, whatever. So if they came up with it and saw it, then that means enough of them, based on under your theory, enough of them believed in it and they saw something and they believed it to be that, and that's where it came into existence. And you think there's only one Bigfoot Sasquatch? There's not like a family or whatever, like we've seen in those Pixar movies or whatever.
Like the one single creature? No,
yeah.
I think there's there can be an unlimited amount of creatures, and there's an unlimited amount of variations of that creature. But I think that it's probably not a flesh and blood animal that lives in the woods, because we would have encountered one by now. We would have found the carcass of one by now. The argument of that is, well, how many times have you walked through the woods and found a dead deer laying on the ground? And there's deer in the woods. But I still think by now we would have encountered something, or we would have flushed one out with how much we've deforested the world. But if these are going to be some kind of a paranormal creature, some sort of a transdimensional type being, then that means that, yeah, probably way back when somebody had the idea that a scary hominid type creature would terrify them. So therefore these things appear as scary hominoid type creatures. Hominid.
Huh. Okay.
I like that. I like that a lot. Just to put a bow on my first story here, I'm giving it a cold hard 10. You guys aren't wavering me. Tim, I respect your professional opinion, but I choose to believe.
Okay, you keep believing in that bullshit. So Tim, I want you to go next, but first, you're doing stuff for the Weather Channel now too, right? You're a paranormal.
Yeah, I was on a series for the Weather Channel called Weird Earth, where they had me go and kind of offer paranormal opinions of some of the strange videos that they'd collected from around the world. And I talked a lot about the paranormal possibilities. I spent 16 hours recording with them in a hotel room in Atlanta. And pretty much none of it made onto the series. It's almost like they decided, like, you know what, we're not going to go that far with some of this. And so you might have little bits and pieces of me saying something like, it could be paranormal, but that's about it.
like, who's the Greek guy from Ancient Aliens? Like, it could be aliens.
Yeah.
Hey, but at least you're on
paranormal, but it's paranormal.
Yeah.
But you were still on Weather Channel. So that's all that matters. Featured by
I'm more proud of the Travel Channel series I was just on.
Oh, that's right. That's
Hotel Paranormal, narrated by Dan Aykroyd.
That's right.
So between that and sharing an IMDb credit now with Dan Aykroyd, and the fact that Jennifer Runyon's talk show is coming to Midnight FM, she's the blonde girl at the beginning of Ghostbusters that's guessing all the ESP cards at the beginning. And Bill Murray's hitting on her. Her talk show is coming to our network. So between those two connections, I'm practically a Ghostbuster now.
Wow. And if you weren't already, that's just a confirmation. Just got to get you like a jumpsuit.
We're putting that in the audio version of this.
I have one, but
we'll make it official.
We're not putting, with paranormal investigator of Midnight.fm, Tim Weisberg, in the headline of this in the audio version, by the way. We're putting Ghostbuster.
For sure.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with that.
It's a fact now.
Ghostbuster.
So, Tim, what's the story that you brought to the table for us? Wes had Sasquatch. It's okay. What do you got?
So I was thinking about going ghosts, but I decided to go with aliens because not only do I think that this is a pretty good story with a good modicum of truth to it, but I also know this is going to freak Nick out when he's driving down the roads because it happened in New England.
Oh, that's great.
Think about this next time you're out driving late at night. I'm going to tell you about the case of Betty and Barney Hill. This happened on September 19th, 1961. It was about 10:30 at night as the Hills were driving back home to Portsmouth, New Hampshire from a trip to Niagara Falls. They were driving down Route 3, which I know Nick probably drives on quite a bit if he's heading to the Cape. It's the same Route 3 that goes all the way into New Hampshire, so that's the alien highway for around here. Betty saw, as they were driving down the road, Betty saw a bright light in the sky that moved between the moon and Jupiter. It kept getting bigger and brighter. So the Hills pulled over in their car and they stopped to get a better look and to let their dog out to do its business. And as they're looking up, they were looking through binoculars and they saw this object get bigger and brighter and start maneuvering around. And Betty immediately thought it was a UFO because her sister had recently reported seeing a UFO. Barney, being more skeptical, thought it was a plane until it started to maneuver in a way that no plane could. So the Hills get back into their car. They start driving. And as they're driving down the road, the ship continued following them through the sky. And eventually it descended directly over their vehicle, hovering about 80 to 100 feet over it. So Barney stopped the vehicle over on the side of the road, got out of the car, and through his binoculars, he looked up and he saw 8 to 10 humanoid figures inside the craft. One of the beings communicated with him telepathically, saying, "Stay where you are and keep looking." But Barney freaked out, jumped in the car, and told Betty they had to get out of there because they were about to be taken. So the Hills tried to drive away, but the craft began pelting their vehicle with strange buzzing sounds and vibrations. The Hills then entered into an altered state of consciousness, and when they came to, they had traveled about 35 miles away from where they last remembered being, and about 3 hours had passed. So that was strange enough. And feel free to interrupt me at any point if you have any questions.
I hate you.
I have a question here. So you said Route 3, but they were traveling from Niagara to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Yeah. Niagara Falls.
Yes.
But Route 3 is a South Shore, Massachusetts route. So it's a Route 3 going through New Hampshire, through Vermont.
Yeah, I assume it's the same Route 3, is it not? Is it not?
No. Route 3 turns into 93 on once you cross into Boston.
Thank God.
That only slightly makes Nick feel better.
Well, because the thing that's concerning about this is we have the what was the Unsolved Mysteries, right? They had that whole thing in Western Mass.
Oh yeah,
and there was one story in there that was believable, and that was the one about the mom and grandma switching seats.
Tom Reed's story, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry, yes, okay, yes. I don't remember the name. So that one's believable. But this one, all the other ones, like, this one, maybe it's because you're telling it, Tim. I don't know. I believe it too.
Listen, I know Tom very well. I've gotten to know him over the years, and I always thought his story was a little fantastical. But then to have other people come out in that Unsolved Mysteries episode that I'd never heard before, I mean, not that I didn't believe Tom, but I just thought that it was, really out there. But knowing that there were multiple sightings, at least with the Hills, we don't have any other encounters with people around the same time frame. But this is just what happened to them when they were on the road. We haven't even gotten to what happened when they got home. When they arrived home, they couldn't stop acting strangely. Betty insisted on keeping the luggage in their suitcases near the back door, just in case. Their watches had stopped working and they would never work again. There were some other weird things, and then Betty found a weird powder on her inexplicably ripped dress, and strange circles were on their car that caused compasses to act erratically. Now, I'll tell you a little something about the dress that she was wearing. She actually gave a piece of that to Matt Moniz, who hosts Spooky South Coast with me, and he conducted tests on that dress to try to figure out what that mysterious powdery substance is. It came back no known substance.
No earthly known substances?
Nothing from this earth could be accounted to that powder.
Wow.
So 2 days after the event, Betty had a series of vivid dreams over 5 nights. In those dreams, her and Barney encountered small men who appeared nearly human but with grayish skin. They wore matching blue uniforms and caps, and they walked them into a metallic disc-shaped craft and separated them in order to be examined. Betty said that they spoke English, but not well. There were 2 with her, one that she called the leader and one that she called the examiner. The examiner cut a lock of her hair off and examined her all over, saving some of her fingernail trimmings, and also scraped her feet, and then thrust a needle into her navel. When she screamed in pain, the leader then waved his hand and the pain disappeared. The leader then also allowed her to take a book and showed her a map of the stars. However, there was an argument that ensued as they were leaving the ship, and the leader said they had decided instead that she could not keep the book because it would allow her to remember her visit, but she told them she was going to remember it anyway. So the Hills, they report this incident to the Air Force. The Air Force looks into it just a little bit with some phone conversations and just conclude that the Hills had misidentified the planet Jupiter. So not being satisfied with that, the Hills then reported the incident to the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomenon, or NICAP. NICAP is the precursor of what we now have today being MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. NICAP investigator Walter Webb investigated their claims and concluded that, at least to the Hills, they were telling the truth. So the Hills then underwent hypnosis in separate sessions, and both went through an emotional recounting of the event that was very similar to Betty's dreams. Both recounted the being speaking to them through what Barney called thought transference because he was unfamiliar with the term telepathy. Betty was also able to later draw that star map, which she saw. And an elementary school teacher, an amateur astronomer named Marjorie Fish, who read the story about the book about their story, The Interrupted Journey, she later contacted them and got a chance to see this map and concluded it was a view of our solar system from the perspective of the solar system Zeta Reticuli, which speculated may have been the home of the beings that had abducted the Hills. Many have refuted the map's accuracy over the years, but is that the fault of the map not being accurate, or was it Betty not correctly recounting that through hypnosis? So, skeptics claim the Hill stories bear close resemblance to some of the science fiction films and television programs of the time, including an episode of The Outer Limits that had actually aired 12 days before Barney's hypnosis session. However, the Hills claim they had never seen any of these films or television shows. But here's the interesting part that makes
this is the interesting part. None of this has been interesting beforehand. Friggin'
here's the part that makes me think that there might be something to their claims here. Betty and Barney Hill had a lot to lose by going public with their story because they were an interracial couple in the 1960s. Barney was black, Betty was white. Barney worked for the U.S. Postal Service and sat on the local board of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. Betty was a social worker, and both were active in their church and the NAACP. So the two of them had a lot to lose by having this story go public, yet they did allow it to go public, including Barney appearing on a game show a few years later to tell the truth. They got a lot of attention for this. There was actually a TV movie that was made about it in 1975 starring James Earl Jones, and it's become kind of the preeminent UFO abduction story. Actually, the first real abduction story that we have in the modern era. There are some from the colonial age, actually, but this is kind of the one that kind of kicked off the alien abduction phenomena.
Huh. I didn't know that.
And it's the home of Massachusetts. The spirit of Massachusetts is runs deep in alien circles, I guess.
Yeah, you're never going to go far from a paranormal story in New England.
I love it. Okay, so my question is, are you familiar with Project Bluebeam?
Bluebeam?
Yes.
The new Project Bluebeam.
Yeah, well, it's like a conspiracy theory.
Yes, I'm familiar with it, yes.
So for those who aren't familiar, Project Bluebeam is like, this is like a final step in all this madness that's currently happening in this world, and it's going to serve as a great unifier to everyone who is separated at this point at odds over various different subjects. And it's going to be the government's going to reveal like UFOs and aliens exist and all this stuff. And that's going to like put aside all of this petty political BS and realize that we have to come together for this greater threat. Is that something that you believe in?
I do not. No, they actually asked me about Bluebeam for Weird Earth. Mm-hmm. And, we got into this like whole 45-minute argument about it because the producer or the director, whoever she was a firm believer in it. And so we kind of went back and forth about it. But no, I don't think so, because I think that there's been a lot of push over the years for disclosure, and there's been opportunities for disclosure. And, the fact that we had a presidential candidate in Jimmy Carter see a UFO while on the campaign trail and talk about it with the media. We had Ronald Reagan have encounters with UFOs. Bill Clinton was very interested in UFOs, so we've had enough time.
Eisenhower, right? Wasn't he?
Eisenhower was supposedly involved in the secret space program, and that goes all the way back to FDR. Supposedly, the aliens reached out to FDR and said, "We want to set up a program where we'll give you technology if you let us take your people." And he said no, but Churchill said yes. So there's a long history of the supposed secret space program that's been going on, and now there are even stories of there being an exchange in which they send their people to us and we send our people to their planet.
What?
Again, just to get this out here, I am once again a 10 out of 10 on this. I want to believe. It's just so goddamn convincing and charismatic through it. How am I not supposed to believe it?
Yeah, Tim tells these stories better than anybody. I mean, it's his job. I mean, are you doing a bunch of local library shows throughout the course of October still?
Yeah, I'm doing a few. I'll be doing some on Presidential Paranormal and the Bridgewater Triangle, and then I'm doing this one event in Middleborough a couple times where I'm actually going to be telling ghost stories like in public. So
good.
It's going to be outdoors.
Check that out, actually.
It's going to be an open bar. Well, not an open bar, but there's going to be a cash bar. But it'll be open bar for me because I'll just make people buy me drinks.
There we go.
Nice. I love when you tell stories, but I don't like when you tell them and it's dark out and I need the lights on because then I kind of start to get a little rattled. And this is a story that's definitely rattled me thoroughly. I hate you. We're not doing the rest of this episode. It's over. You're never coming back on again. Seriously, though, I'm buying this, and I already buy into Aliens, so I'm going with a 10 on this one too. I buy it.
Wow, 2 10s. I'm only going to go with a 7.5 for myself.
It's a pretty freaking strong.
Now what holds you back from going higher?
I believe that the Hills believe what happened to them. I don't know how much I believe in some of the stuff with the star map and all of that, because I don't know if I necessarily believe that the aliens we encounter are beings from another planet. I do think that people do have experiences with aliens, but I do think that it's more of a modern day boogeyman. So people 200 years ago would have encountered fairies. Now the fairies that they are encountering are aliens. So our boogeyman has to change with our modern times, and so that's what we're really experiencing with these.
Now, what if the aliens aren't from outer space, but actually inside of Earth?
Well, that's another theory, that they're the hollow Earth theory.
Yeah.
The aliens actually live inside, and they're not even, in that case, they're not even really aliens anymore. They're Earth beings. But I mean, we can go all the way back to the idea of the aliens coming here from other planets to seed our population, to maybe create our population, that we could literally just be the aliens that have come to live on a new, different planet.
Sure.
There's a variety of different theories involved in it. I would think, though, that the hollow Earth theory falls about as flat as the flat Earth theory, because we've proven that there's a magma core inside the Earth.
But have you read that nonfiction book, Journey to the Center of the Earth? I think Jules Verne was really onto something.
He was the foremost scientist when it came to these kind of things.
I believe so. I trust Jules.
So Tim, before we go on to mine, where did you when the whole UFO sighting happened in the middle of the pandemic and everything, did you care at all when you saw it? It could be an alien ship, or
because that could be a point to Project Bluebeam.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's been a lot of UFO sightings here on the South Coast in the last few weeks. So the sightings are on the increase overall, but we're in the middle of what we call a flap. So when UFOs start to appear with great frequency, they consider that to be a UFO flap. And we're in probably one of the biggest ones we've had in a long time here in New England. And so there's been sightings in Dartmouth, Fall River, Freetown, New Bedford. I actually walked out of my house a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday night and saw one, over the pond across the street from my house. So, and that's only the third UFO sighting I've ever had in my life.
Oh, only the third.
That's pretty good.
Freaking guy.
So do you think, what's the reason for that? Is there any reason that you would think that would be?
Well, I mean,
for the flap.
Yeah, going with my theory as to why, what UFOs could be, we're in a time of uncertainty, and we're in a time, and in times of uncertainty, people's belief in the paranormal increases. So I think that, we could be manifesting these things, and this could be a physical manifestation of the uneasiness that we're all feeling. Maybe that can be, for a lot of people, a calming thing, because they think, oh, well, there is more than just what's going on here. So even though, mankind might die off, if you're really afraid of this pandemic, there's other things out there in the galaxy, and there's other ways for life to continue on. It doesn't just have to be us.
So you're saying the idea of a collective amount of stress, or a frequency that's going off, if you will, much like you might find at a frequency at a church, if everyone's singing the same hymn or something along those lines, could manifest that sort of negative energy.
It could also be the fact that, that people have been spending so much time at home now, more than ever, that paranormal reports have gone up overall. So we've been seeing the statistics increase, and maybe that is just making people more susceptible to believing in it. So then if you're going to go outside, the lights that you might have seen 6 or 8 months ago and not thought twice about it, now you're going to really start to think about what it could possibly be. And if you go to the site, if you go to MUFON or the National UFO Reporting Center websites, you can track all of these reports. and you can see, how a lot of them have become more sophisticated in their reporting. So you get less of the Chinese lanterns and the mistaken aircraft, and you see more reports of things that are happening where these lights are just behaving in an erratic and improbable way.
I hate this so much.
I love it.
I
love it. We can go on and on for this, especially on the aliens one. You got me hooked. I'm sinking my teeth in right now, and I want the full steak.
Look, the aliens one is scary, but there are two things that scare me more. One of them is not Sasquatch. That is the least scary of. I mean, there are probably plenty of other options too.
I'm trying to scare you, man.
Oh, good. I appreciate
rip someone's head off. I don't know what you want from me.
You're a good friend. Well, anyways, the other two things that scare me a lot are hauntings and then possessions. Possessions being numero uno, and that's where I'm going to go with today. And Tim actually suggested this one to me, and I looked into it more. I thought it was perfect. So from the movie The Exorcist, right, you have the character of Reagan, a female character. That character was inspired by a real life experience with an exorcism, and the individual's a boy and goes by the name of Roland Doe. So obviously Doe is probably Jane Doe. I saw too that it was the kid's name was actually Ronald Doe. So take that for what you will. Obviously they're trying to protect the individual's name. In looking all this stuff up, guys, I want to try and find a video too. And if anybody is interested in seeing what I guess a current exorcism looks like, type in the Laura exorcism. It took place in Argentina. It's pretty weird. I mean, it's I expect, but with these, I'm expecting
watching that.
Yeah, and I put the link in our Google Doc, so you have it there. And then there's a BBC special done on that preacher in it, and it's. I'm gonna watch the whole thing. It's like 45 minutes. The exorcism itself, I think, was like 45 minutes too. So, anyways,
wild.
But anyways, on to the actual story of Roland Doe. So this took place in the late 40s. I saw 1949 thrown around quite a bit. So you're dealing with this kid who we're going to continue to refer as Roland. Roland has an aunt who passes away. She taught him how to use a Ouija board. And after she passes, he starts to experience some strange things. And Tim, actually, quick aside, you've used Ouija boards before. I've been around people who use them. Okay. So they are actually like effective or whatever?
Some people believe that it's just your own idiomotor skills that are moving it, that it's something you're doing subconsciously. I've had things come through it that I couldn't explain, that I know I wasn't moving it, and the other person I was doing it with was blind, so I know she wasn't moving it.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So he heard some scratching coming from the floor, the walls of his room. Water dripped inexplicably from the pipes and the walls. And the most troubling thing was his mattress apparently suddenly moved. And by the way, I'm getting all of this from allthatisinteresting.com. I also looked, Wikipedia, because we're talking about paranormal stories. I think I can look at those a little bit too. But a lot of stuff lined up. So then they try to get some help from the city doctors. I guess the families, they're from like the Maryland, D.C. area. They're Lutheran. They try and get help from their minister, and then he turns them over to the Jesuits. So you know that he's desperate. You know that this is some serious shit. So in doing so, there's a priest. He performs an exorcism, and he's going through it, but then the kid ends up like stabbing him, stops the exorcism, and then after that, the kid, a couple days later, winds up having scratches on his stomach that make out the word Louis. Apparently, he has family in St. Louis, so his parents bring him out to there to try and get further help. He has a cousin or whatever that goes to the University of St. Louis, who then sets him up with two preachers who go by the name of Father Walker Halloran and Reverend William Bowden. First exorcism they perform fails. Roland, this is according to the priest reports, apparently, Roland was calm and normal during the day after that first exorcism, but then at nights, after settling in for bed, he would exhibit strange behavior, including screaming and wild outbursts. Roland was, I'm sorry?
I said, oh man, this is getting good.
So Roland would also enter a trance-like state and start making sounds in a guttural voice. That's the thing that I'm looking for when I see these exorcisms. Like, is there a demon in there that they're going to just take over and sound like this? Something to that end. You know what I mean? Like that. I guess maybe I shouldn't be expecting that. Anyways, the priest also saw mysterious flying objects, and you kind of get the gist of all of it. And I guess at one point they saw an X appear in scratches on Roland's chest. And this is where I kind of run into a problem. They thought it stood for 10, in that he had 10 demons in him.
Oh.
That's That's where my only issue with all 10 demons in one little kid. That seems like a lot. So
is that possible? Is that possible, Tim?
Sure, absolutely. That's why when they ask, they ask the demon to name itself, they'll say something like, "We are Legion." It's that there's many of them inside.
Oh,
now,
okay.
We Are Legion. Is that like an actual? Someone actually said that in an exorcism before?
That's the movie The Exorcist.
I was gonna say, yeah. I was
fair enough. Not a horror guy,
which is not mentioned in here at all. But then also they do bring up that there was a pitchfork like scratched into the boy's thigh at one point as well. On March 20th in 1949, they performed another exorcism where he urinated all over his bed and began shouting and cursing at the priests. Then the parents took him to the Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis for a more serious treatment. Miracle happens on April 18th. It was the Monday after Easter, and Roland awoke with seizures. He yelled at the priest, saying that Satan would always be with him. The priest laid holy relics, crucifixes, medals, and rosaries on the boy. At 10:45 that evening, the priest called on St. Michael to expel Satan from Roland's body. They shouted at Satan, saying that Michael would battle him for Roland's soul. 7 minutes later, Roland came out of the trance and simply said, "He's gone." And later on, the boy recounted how he had a vision that St. Michael vanquished Satan on a great battlefield. And last little note before you guys give me your take, the kid was fine after and supposedly lived a normal life.
Okay, so my question is to Tim here. When you have an exorcism and then you actually do have a demon that gets exorcised out of you, do you have a memory of that as the victim, or like this? Because I would imagine like that's such a traumatic experience that it stays with you, even if you're quote unquote exorcising the demons.
So more often than not, with exorcism cases, they do report having no memory of what happened, or if they do, they have memories that are like, I was somewhere being held somewhere, and there was some sort of dark entity around me. It's never them having a clear memory of what went on during the exorcism.
Like actually in the room, strapped down, like piss in the bed or something like that, right?
Huh.
Which I would imagine if Roland was urinating all over the bed and if it was enough to make like a worthy note of it, I would have to imagine it would be like a very dehydrated stream, like very yellow and stinky. Like this guy wasn't like drinking bottles of water before taking a piss. It's not a clear stream we're talking about.
That's interesting too, Tim, because when I watched the documentary, I had seen that Laura exorcism, and then I saw another one in that BBC documentary, and the girl who had a demon exorcise kind of recalled moments from that. And the guy doing the interview for BBC or looking into this priest, he had a lot of suspicions with the validity of his story, so that kind of adds into it all. Now, have you ever been present for an exorcism?
No, I won't be present for one because I don't have faith. And so I don't want to be involved in it if me not having faith could affect the outcome of it. That's why they always, they ask for only the faithful to be in the room when they conduct these, because if there's anybody who is not, they could be putting themselves at risk. So I don't really necessarily believe in demons, but just in case they are right, I don't need to be the doubting Thomas in the room that then ends up with the demon in me because I'm the easiest target. So I just try to avoid it altogether. The other part about exorcisms that you have to be careful of is, and this is why the church doesn't sign off on them very often, is because you want to make sure you're not playing into somebody's psychosis. That, they could be a religious fanatic that thinks that they are possessed, or even somebody, you don't have to be religious, but just somebody that thinks that they're possessed. You don't want to play into that. And I also would be nervous to be in a room if that's the case, because I'm not trained as a psychologist to be able to tell when somebody's exhibiting signs. So I don't want to start buying into it and contributing to their psychosis if that's what it turns out to be.
Well, have you talked to any priests or anything? Like, how would they discern between what would be like a mental episode and really an exorcism?
So I know people that are both religious demonologists and what they call lay demonologists who conduct these. The religious demonologists, the exorcists who do it, they say that it's God, basically coming to them, and God gives them some sort of a sign that allows for it. Also, another key part of it is when you have to have, there's certain signs that you have to have that it meets the criteria of being considered an exorcism, which involves like speaking in tongues, speaking in a language that the person would have no knowledge of, having a preternatural knowledge about other things, these a reaction to religious icons, and they'll try and mess with the person, not mess with them, but they'll try and see if it's a false positive by they'll tell you something's a holy relic. So they'll tell you this is a piece of the cross that held Jesus. This is a piece of the true cross. They'll put it against your skin and you'll flail and react like you're being burned. And then the priest will say later on, like, this is only a piece of a popsicle stick, but it's just trying to, see what your reaction is. And so they'll try those different ways. Lay demonologists, they say it's a lot harder because they're not necessarily coming into it with the idea that God is working through them necessarily. So for them, you really have to have some better signs and some better training in schizophrenia and mental afflictions like that. So usually for lay demonologists, they'll either have somebody from the church with them who just, can't partake because the church hasn't signed off, or they'll have somebody who has a mental health background to try and keep an eye on. I mean, just as an example, Matt Moniz was referred a case that was told to him to be a possession case, and they were all gung-ho. We have a friend who is a lay demonologist who was going to come and conduct the exorcism. They had gone over to this house repeatedly to talk to this family, and they thought for sure this was the real thing. This was actual possession. And then, kind of at the last minute, they came to find out that there were some serious problems in the family. And so it turned out to be mental illness. So had they gotten involved in this, they would have only been playing into that. And probably put themselves at risk in having to deal with this family.
Oh, okay.
I'm a big fan. I think we got to go around the room here and put a scale on it. I'm just going to lead off, if you will. If you haven't already guessed, I'm a 10 out of 10. I'm a true believer of this. It was in a movie, so it has to be true.
I'm going to go with an 8.5. On this one, I want to believe in the exorcism stuff and that people can get possessed. But after seeing that video with the Laura chick and seeing a little bit of the BBC stuff, I have my doubts with any of the stories. I'm not saying it can't happen. This is one that I don't know. I want to believe it, but also just so you can say, I have exorcised the demon. Name that movie.
Scary Movie 2.
Tim?
No.
Too obscure an Ace Ventura reference for you guys to figure it out?
I'm not a big Jim Carrey guy.
Wait a minute, that's from after. Okay, whatever. He says that. Yeah, he says that. Exorcist demon. This house is clear. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm a bigger fan of James Woods playing the priest in Scary Movie. And he's sitting on the toilet and he's trying to say, release these demons. And he's got the flies all around him. And you think he's performing an exorcism, but he's really just taking a massive dump. That's comedy to me.
That's some good shit right there.
How most actual exorcisms go. People take a dump. I'm going to rate this one at a 6 because I do believe that possessions are a real thing. I don't know if I necessarily believe in demons, but I do believe that people feel as though there is an external force that takes over their bodies. I can't be certain how true this one was. Of course, because a lot of these details, have a lot of the details that we hear now about the story have kind of come to light after the original story. And so I don't know how much of this is to backfill The Exorcist, but there's enough possession stories around the world that I think that there is some validity to it. Do I think that it's necessarily really demons taking over people's bodies? Probably not. But I do think that there's the possibility for an external force to have influence over a person.
Okay, so maybe you just answered my question here, but if you don't believe that it's necessarily demonic forces at play, then what's the difference in your definition of paranoid schizophrenic and someone who is potentially possessed?
Well, I honestly think that there might be people who are possessed who are falsely diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic too. So I think that there can go either way, but I think that the real key for it is if it's a sudden onset thing and it can be removed from the person, it's probably not paranoid schizophrenia because that wouldn't suddenly be cured by somebody conducting an exorcism.
Yeah.
So the fact that people get into this mental state and then the exorcism cures them of that mental state makes me think that there's probably something to it. I just don't know if I believe in demons because I don't believe in all the religious stuff and the connotations, but I do believe that there are external negative forces that could have influence over a person.
Right, and I guess the argument against what I just asked would be if it was schizophrenia, that would probably be internalized forces at play, right? More of a mental thing as opposed to potentially external.
Right. And I think that, the quote unquote voices inside your head play a big part in it. What are the voices telling you and how is that manifesting? There's differences between schizophrenia and possession.
And you still like Constantine though, right?
Of course.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah. It's awesome. All right. Anyways, thanks for hanging out, Tim. Really appreciate it.
We love this, man.
Thanks for getting weird with me a little here.
So we can obviously find Tim on Twitter at Tim Weisberg. You can find then his
blue check mark, big deal.
Yes, that's true. And then midnight.fm.
Hold on. I just, because this is the show to be able to brag about this. I did get my tweet liked by Ryan Reynolds a few weeks ago.
Really?
Yep.
Go on.
Yeah, when he tweeted out the Mint Mobile ad with Rick Moranis and how he brought back Rick Moranis, I just wrote "Thank you" at Van City Reynolds, and then he liked my tweet.
It was that simple, huh? There's no wait or anything. It was just a simple thank you. That's all it takes.
Yep, and the blue check mark helps.
Because, of course. Yeah. Oh yeah,
that's the other blue check mark. So
right. Joe Schmoes can't just thank him and get a like.
After he got this verified on Twitter, I'm pretty sure Tim got followed by Anson Mount from Hell on Wheels. Am I correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of celebrities that follow me. It's kind of cool. The blue check mark's the way to go.
Yeah, good for you. So you can at Tim Weisberg on Twitter. Is it at Midnight FM on Twitter too?
Midnight.fm, Midnight.FM.
Okay, and then of course the website Midnight. Plug all your stuff, please. You have so much.
Yeah, the best way to go is just to go to Midnight.fm, Midnight.FM. That's the web address. That'll give you all of our programming there. You can sign up, get a membership there. You can hear all of our archive shows, and we have a live schedule up there, so you can hear all the shows for free while they're live. And then ultimateunexplained.com is the news site where you can go and get all the weird news.
I got to go back and listen to the DeGrasse Tyson interview, but how was that?
That was very, very good. I had a lot of fun with him. I called up and I said, before the show started, and I was like, "Hello, Dr. Tyson." And he was like, "Oh, please call me Neil." And I was like, "Oh, Dr. Weisberg."
Not a big deal. All right, Tim, you got to get ready for your show. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, man.
Thank you. Take care. Keep it weird, baby.
All right. We will talk to Tim again down the line. Wes, what's up next for us?
Yes, and now let's get caught up with Keeping Up with the Kardashians with special guest Kourtney Kardashian. Take it away, Wes.
And again, that is only for our audio version of this show. You will not be able to hear that or listen to that now. So make sure you guys go back and listen to us, iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Wes, it's time for the Quarantine Corner.
Yes, it sure is. And just to say, that was some really compelling stuff that we just listened to. A big thank you to Kourtney again for coming on here. Nick, what was your biggest takeaway from the Kardashian Minute?
I think that she has a very sound delivery. And I think she does a really good job of putting up with your ass too, because you're always grilling her on shit. And I don't appreciate that.
I'm just being a good host, as any Big J journalist would. Sometimes you got to press with some questions there. Maybe you just noticed with the rapport that I built with our previous guest, maybe pushing back on a little bit on some of the questions there. I thought that we were really digging deep.
You know what, Wes? It's Kourtney Kardashian, though. You don't question her. You just throw up stuff for her to talk about. That's all.
I just want to keep her on her toes.
That's how the real Big J journalists get by. Is they just really make it easy for their interviewer, and they're like, "Oh, I like this person a lot," and then they just never ask for a question.
Gotcha journalism at its finest. That's what I made it.
But now it's time for the Quarantine Corner.
Yes, it is.
You have something for me that we alluded to earlier in the show.
Yeah, I have to eat some crow at this point because it's been a long time coming, and I don't know why I didn't watch this show or never gave it a chance. Maybe it was just out of popularity spite. I just wanted to zag when most people were zigging, but now I am zagging with the rest of them, and I finally started watching The Boys on Amazon Prime Video there. So I'm 4 or 5 episodes in. I love it. I think it's great. Probably for all the same reasons that everyone else has already said, so I won't get into it too much. But I'm really enjoying it. Very graphic. It's a cool take on a superhero story.
Yeah, I love that show. I am all caught up on that. The final episode of this season, I think, comes out on the Friday after this episode releases. And I saw Casey Walsh tweeting about it, and he says, we're not ready for this shit. So,
you know what it did make me think about with like the corporate superhero idea and like having talking points and all these like manufactured meetups and all these different things. Like it makes me wonder about that, about like ultra mega athletes, like a LeBron James type, like how much of the things that he does off the court that go like viral, or you know, things like how much of that is like manufactured.
Oh, come on. You know, there's definitely with the big guys. I mean, come on, with Tom Brady, every time he talks now, he's always got that.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's great. Everything's awesome. You know, I love my life all the time. Nothing bad ever happens. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, come on. That smile alone is terrifying. Anyways, so Wes, last week, he decided not to mention this. I figured this would be his number one thing, not the voice, but whatever. He made his Furloughed Friends debut, which we were very excited about. And
I'm disappointed, though, if I could say, you know, like I thought the idea was great. I think in retrospect, probably what we should have done is went on earlier. Of course, if you didn't catch it, we did presidential debate bingo. But we should have went on before the bingo, the debate took place, and give away everyone's bingo cards so they could play at home, and then we could kind of tweet things out. You know, like that was probably the way to go, because it was tough to watch it as it's happening, because we want to keep the conversation going during the live stream, but we also want to keep an ear open to pay attention. So it was a lot of juggling, but I loved it. It was a great time. So thanks to Lucy and you for having me on here.
Well, we're probably going to have you on for I don't know if we're going to do anything for the vice presidential debate, because that's what's next in all this.
It's Wednesday, yeah.
Okay, so we don't do an episode on Wednesday usually, so we'll see where things go. I don't know, but
we have to see with COVID and Trump and all that at this point. Who knows?
Right. But whenever we do the next debate thing, we're definitely going to do that. I know you really want to get into the whole Cape Cod topography and everything, but I would like to note that Tim Weisberg is a resident of the Cape, and he referred to the area that we live in as the South Coast, not the Cape. He lives in Wareham, so just
so he's not a resident of the Cape.
Oh wait, that's right. That's right. But some people would say that Wareham is, right?
No, that would be wrong.
I got it confused with Bourne, which is where you're from. Anyways,
correct. Correct. You know, little known fact about Bourne, it has the distinction of being the oldest and the youngest town in the Cape.
Huh?
Oh yeah, you like that, huh? How's that for a little factoid?
Okay. Anyway,
youngest town in the Cape. It used to be the landmass used to be part of Sandwich, which is the oldest town, and then they broke off in like the 1800s or something like that.
Okay. Did not know that. Anyways, so Wes made his debut. We'll have him on again. Maybe we're definitely going to modify it, because he's right. There were issues with it, but the idea was brilliant. We just need to do it beforehand. What else do we got? Oh, so also I finally got back on the Lucifer train. Season 5 is out. I have a backlog of stuff that I need to watch, because I want to watch Van Helsing, which is back on Netflix. Then that I have Lucifer, and I think there's another show that I haven't gotten in on. And there's a few on Amazon Prime that seem interesting. So I'm just trying to catch up. I also watched the first episode of Norseman, which I believe I've told you about before.
Mm-hmm.
And that show is so weird, and I feel like with everybody loving the Tim Robinson stuff and everything, how weird that humor is, I think you guys would like Norseman. I really do. If you like,
I thought Norseman was like Game of Thrones, but with like Vikings.
It's Vikings, but it's comedy.
Oh, it's comedy.
It's a comedy show. Yes, no, Vikings is the show with Vikings, but like yes. So,
but Norseman's on Netflix.
Netflix, yeah, it's free. It's The third season came out, and I liked the first episode, and I mean, it's only 20 episodes a pop, 20 minutes a pop, excuse me.
Okay.
So, yeah, so you might be worth giving. I think it's worth giving a shot. It's weird.
That's really interesting, because I just assumed it was like a Witcher type, very dramatic science fiction type story.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, there's a story to it, but it's just all stupid bullshit.
That's really interesting. I might give that a shot then.
Oh, look at this.
I'm not making any promises, unless you want to do it for your stupid birthday episode.
I got to figure out what we're going to do with that. But as a side note, we gotta see. I don't know if we want to do this necessarily, but there's nothing else coming out. Maybe we see if we can talk to Tim about getting some other paranormal experts on for one of our other shows this month. At least
maybe that's what we do. For the rest of the month here. This is the first October show.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the month we just do paranormal stuff. Maybe we go a little bit further into the aliens. Go a little bit further into the cryptids.
Maybe, except we're probably gonna not do that on my birthday. But we'll see. I'm not certain. I'm not making.
Well, that's a very selfish move on your part. But okay, whatever you want to do.
Well, we're going to do it every year. That's what's going to happen every year. Now you give me this gift, and now you're going to take it back, and we're going to. So it's mine to decide what we're going to do with, just like yours in September. Sorry you missed out. What happened this week in the hashtag Dorkshirt Gooniverse?
A lot has already happened, despite it being Monday, actually. So of course, you got your news dumps from Mac and Do that comes out every Friday. Not Mac and Do, but Mac and Do. That come out every Friday. But they also did over the weekend Halloween with Rich Keefe of the hashtag Dork podcast, which is so weird because I said this in the group. Like I could have sworn that each of these podcasts have done this movie review before.
Yeah, Mandela effect.
They say they haven't, but I disagree.
Mandela effect, 1,000%. It's their favorite movie. Isn't it Mac and Goo's favorite horror movie too?
I don't know.
And it's right up there I think it's their favorite, and it's up there for Keith. His is Scream. So what did they do? It was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, right? We said that before. Yeah,
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which is also out now. I believe they recorded on Sunday on their YouTube there, but it's available on iTunes, an audio version now. But I was a little thrown off by that because I thought that was going to be stepping on the toes of what we're doing. But they're just talking about fake shit. We're doing the real stuff, getting that real, that good.
Mm-hmm. Well, on the way, and then of course PCP is doing Paranormal Activity, which is
another fake shit.
Yeah, is it? That's right. It's fake, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's fake.
I think it was fake, and there were no name actors and all that stuff. Yeah, okay, that sounds.
I think it was like a Blair Witch Project type of setting that was supposed to look like handy cam,
So if you want the real shit, you come to change my mind. That's what it comes down to. We don't need to. I guess we're trying to change people's minds when it comes to that.
We want to change everyone's mind who isn't currently listening to us.
Yes, exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't be listening to us anyway, so there wouldn't be an opportunity to change their mind because they're not listening to us. So we really backed ourselves into a real pretzel here.
Yes. I also like to note that TLDR will be on at 8 over. Actually, no, it'll be early this week. It'll be on at 7:45 because we're doing one of our first trade episode because we're on episode 10. So Doc and I are going to look back at a book that the other has recommended. So, for example, I don't plan on doing this book because I already talked about it a ton, but Once in Future, Doc recommended that for me. I could, again, not going to talk about that this week in addition to a new book. Doc could pick Undiscovered Country, which I talked about last week. I hope he doesn't. And then talk about it this week in addition to a new book. So a slightly longer episode where we'll reflect on those too. And then
interesting. So you're recycling old content and old takes from one another.
We're seeing it's a retrospective on the recommendations, and we're telling.
I see. No, I missed out. Yeah, I was very snarky in my initial response there, but I clearly missed the point, so I retract my statement.
Well, that's my fault for not explaining. Well, basically, we're recommending books for everybody out there, so we gotta show them hey, I believe in my partner and what he's recommending, and I
see. I like that. That's very innovative.
Thank you very much. And then also Furloughed Friends on Tuesday and Thursday starting at 9. Again, those are only videos, live stream over on Lucy Burge's Twitter account, Lucille Burge. And then, of course, on the hashtag Dorkshirt Gooniverse Facebook page. So TBD decided by me next week, right, Wes?
Yeah, same bad time, same bad place.